Hi, Jane, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you.
I'm super excited you're here. You bring such a wealth of information with you. And I think that what you're here to talk about is going to be so relatable to so many women. And so thank you for being here and bringing all your wisdom.
Awesome. I'm so glad we figured out how to make it work.
Yes, absolutely. Again, divine timing. Everything
Fun
works
timing.
out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. So, I want to start here in this place. Really, what I do is I teach women to turn their life's PhD into a profitable business. So, it's taking a look back at where they've been and all the lessons they've learned that they can bring forward today and turn that into a business. So, let's just go backwards with you a little bit. And what is your although you are a PhD in its own right,
Right.
what's your life's PhD that brought you here to do this?
Yeah. So it's two things. One, when my family growing up wasn't super healthy. And when we're all grown up, my sister dragged us all to a family therapist. And at the time, I was working in advertising in New York City. It was completely not the job for me as a dyslexic ADHD person. But
Yes.
so the therapist started her session with it. She's like, I'm here to put myself out of a job. And being in New York City advertising, I'm like, that's crazy. I did not say it out loud, of course. But she said, the more people I help, if they get healthier, and then if they go on to have partners and families, then those families will be healthier. And then if they go on to have families, those families will be healthier. And she said, health will spread around the world and I'll be out of a job. And I'm like, I like your job better than my job, right?
Yes.
So I went and gave notice, and which is good because they're probably going to fire me anyway because I kept making mistakes as dyslexic. It was like ridiculous. But and then where I really came into the self-love, self-compassion was a bit more of a dramatic story. I was getting my PhD. I was going to go into academia, and my partner at the time left me. I thought we were going to get married, and I thought, because I learned somewhere that if I had a partner who I was married to, I was valuable and lovable. And so, right? So he broke up with me. I was considering suicide. I was so devastated. I was reading every self-help book. And then when I was considering
Uh,
suicide, I'm like, this belief system is not working for me. This is not going to be okay, right? So bless him, because he started my journey into self-love and self-compassion, because I thought I can't rely on another person to make me feel like I'm worth living. It's just wrong.
yeah.
So for me, it took, I'm pretty stubborn. So it took that depth for me to go, hey, there might be another way. And so my path since then.
Amazing. And that's a perfect example of using your life's PhD
Yes.
to your benefit and
Yes.
to, expand yourself and raise your vibration and all the beautiful things that come along with that. At the
Yeah.
time, like you said, you had considered suicide. I mean, at the time, you really felt like that breakup was the end for you. Like, how can it
Yes.
ever be better? Right?
Yes. It'll never be good again.
It'll never be good again. And you know what? Like, not only is that unfair to you that I'm not worthy without this other person, that's a lot of pressure to put on another person.
I know, right?
Right?
It's a lot of pressure that can never be fulfilled,
That's right.
because if we don't feel lovable somewhere inside, we will never accept anybody else's love. Like, why would we? If we're not lovable, we could have love coming in from 60 people and we'd be like, and that you're not doing enough. Right.
Right, exactly. You're never going to be perfect in the eyes of everyone.
Yes.
And perfection's never the goal because perfection's not even real.
It's not. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
So, thank you for your authenticity around that and sharing your life's PhD. And I think it's wicked cool that you actually have a PhD.
Right.
And so, what does that look like? How does your academic PhD really support your life's PhD?
Well, here's the thing, Pascal. And I might get kicked out of PhD-ness for this, but the thing my PhD taught me the most was that there are theories and they're very limited. Like I
Mhm.
was in one of the top programs in my field in the country, and half the professors were divorced, marriage and family therapy program. At least half the students, including me, were on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. And there was infighting in the department. And I'm like, this is one of the top schools in the country. And clearly, people are not walking the talk. Like something is missing here. So, you talked about doing energy work. As I was writing my dissertation, I thought to myself, there's got to be more because I know this stuff works. I mean, it makes sense to me, but there's got to be more to actually make it helpful. And that's when I started to build my intuition, my own inner knowing, not just the external, here's what the experts say and determine, but what's true for me, what works for me. So my PhD brought me to my inner knowing. And it also made me realize if something's really important to me, I can work really, 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 really hard. Because, ADHD and dyslexia, I can make it happen. So if I can make a PhD happen with all that, unmedicated,
Yeah,
if I really want something, I will figure out how to do it. So I learned different lessons than most people do, I think, but they were the ones I needed to learn, clearly.
absolutely. We learn when the student is ready, the teacher will
Yes.
appear.
Yes.
And
Even if
whether
that's
that is
us.
in form of a person or a life lesson or an event, whatever it is,
Yeah.
divine timing, it all appeared the way it was supposed to appear.
Absolutely.
I love all of that. And so many women I am seeing, this is my third year of the podcast, and the overarching theme really is all the answers are within.
Yes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems that no matter how many different ways we say it, inside, outside, upside down, people still don't hear it until they're ready to hear it.
Right. In working with my clients, I repeat myself a lot. And often it could be, I don't know how many times I will say the same thing in a different way, but the same thing. And one day they'll go, oh, I get it. You've been saying that for a while. Wait, I get it now. And I'm like, right, it just takes a while in different ways for it to be heard when we're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about living in authenticity because that can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I feel like a maybe misnomer is that you have to be on display to be living in authenticity. So let's talk about what that means for you,
Wow. That'd be my worst case authenticity.
right? Talk about clarity.
I know. Right. So authenticity, what it means for me. It's interesting. I have really been on the authenticity path for the past 2 or 3 years. And what I'm discovering is like one of the things I really work with people and myself is what are the beliefs underneath? What are the unconscious beliefs that are keeping us doing this stuff? I'll swear, doing these stuff that doesn't work and it hasn't worked. And we know it doesn't work, but we can't choose anything else. When that's happening, always there's an unconscious belief we have, which is counter to what we want to believe. So, one of the things I'm discovering as I'm being less, quote, nice, I'm being kind, but I'm not being, oh, you want me to do that? But I don't want to. Like, it's not nice to not want to do something, but it's
That's right.
kind rather than being super resentful that I'm doing something just because they asked me, even though I don't want to, right? So, but the belief I'm uncovering is if I'm not, quote, nice, no one will want to be my friend. I have to be nice. And that was like, whoa, that's a really sad and entrapping belief. Because I can't be loved for me. It's only for what I do. It's not who I am, it's what I do. So for me, being authentic really is what is true for me, and then self-soothe, 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 because I learned to be a people pleaser. So that's my authentic path.
Yeah, but that's beautiful. What is true for me? What do I need in this moment?
Yeah.
Because how can we look within to find all the answers if we don't look within to first nurture and, like you said, self soothe?
Yes. Because
Yeah,
people are going to be upset. Because of course they want us to do stuff they want us to do. But here's
right.
what the really cool thing is, once I discovered that they get to be mad at me, I'm less mad at them if they don't want to do what I want them to do for me.
Yes.
I don't take it as personally. I'm like, well, it's completely about them. I get to want them to do it, but they don't want to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
First of all, I think we all walk around with this belief that we're the main character in everyone's story,
Right.
right? I mean, how self contrived is that, right? We are not the main character in anyone's story, and oftentimes not even the main character in our own story.
Right. I never thought about it that way. You're right. We're out here making everybody else the main character.
That's right.
Wow, I love that.
Okay, that's going in my book because that is so
Yeah,
true.
that is so true.
That is
And
so true. The
here's a
book that I'm
brain.
writing that only, divine timing knows when it'll actually come to fruition. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think we've said it a million different ways, but that is very clear. Like, we're not the main character in everyone else's story. And especially as women, we're oftentimes not the main character in our own story because we're busy
Right.
making sure everyone else is okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. We are.
Yeah. I know. She says with a smile, with a fake
A
smile, we are.
really fake smile. Right.
But literally, that is the society, that's the culture that we live in. And so, if you don't do what I want you to do, you're selfish.
Yes. That's what we learned.
But aren't I selfish because I'm mad because you won't do what I want you to do?
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
so, what I say to my clients is, and you can tell me if you say this differently or, if you have a different view on it, is you should be selfish. You should be selfish with a capital S
Yeah.
and focus inward on yourself and take care of yourself first. And that's okay.
Yeah. So one of my specialties has been Alzheimer's, and I've worked with Alzheimer's caregivers for over a quarter of a century.
Mm,
And not once, Pascal, not once because I'm like, okay, take care of yourself, take care of yourself, nourish yourself. What do you need? And not once has a caregiver said, Jane, now that I'm taking better care of myself, I'm a worse caregiver. Like, not one time in over a quarter of a century. Every single time they say, now that I'm doing more for me, I'm kinder, I'm more patient, I don't get mad at them as often. And I'm like, right?
yeah.
Once people experience it, they know it works. But I've got a great model, which originally came from Stephen Covey, which really helps people see this concept. He called it the circle of influence and concern. Those names were confusing to me and my clients, so I've renamed it. Uh, there are two circles when we're worried about anything. The inner circle is our thoughts and our behaviors. That's what I call the circle of agency or power. It's really the only thing we have any control over, our thought. And those are hard enough, our thoughts and our behaviors. Everything else is this big circle outside, which I call the circle of victim, or it should be under my control, but it's not, right? That's everything other than our thoughts and our behaviors. So when we're like, but I want you to take me to the airport. This is an argument I had recently, and it was not but you should want to take me to the airport, right? No, they don't have to take me to they don't have to want to, right? But when we want someone to feel a certain way so we feel better, we are completely in this circle of victim. I am victim to you. My feelings are victim to your decisions. We're always helpless, hopeless, anxious, stuck, frustrated, angry. So anytime my clients are any of those things, I go, where are you right now? Yeah, I'm in the circle of victim.
That's it. Because when you point it out, they're like, wah, wah.
I know.
Darn, she caught me.
Yeah, but it's where we're most comfortable being. It's also the most helpless place to be, which is why we're all walking around frustrated and stuck a lot.
Mm, no truer words, my friend. No truer words.
Right? Yeah.
And I love that you call that inner circle, your circle of influence and power. And because that's that's the goal, is to build, rebuild, strengthen your personal power. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean power over
Over. Mm-mm.
everyone. That just means power within
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. Which, just like when we nurture ourselves and nourish ourselves, our natural generosity just overflows. And when we
Mm,
nurture our own power and come into our own agency by making decisions, beliefs, behaviors that are for in our own authenticity and integrity, we naturally are more giving. We naturally want to help other people have more power also. We don't need to have power over when we're full.
exactly. Exactly. When my kids were little, I used to take a nap in the afternoon, and
Good
I
for
would feel
you.
badly about, right? I'd feel badly
Yeah.
about it for a little while. And then I was like, you know what? I don't feel badly about it, because when I can take even a 15 or 20-minute nap,
Yeah.
I'm a better mom.
Yes.
I show up better. How I used to parent was, what if I thought I hung up the phone, but I didn't, and someone was listening in? How would I want to show up?
That's brilliant.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little trick of the mind to be like, stay in control.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
love that you consider yourself a brain geek and self compassion expert. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's go with the brain geek piece first.
What I love about knowing, like, we are in the best time period, it could be better in the future, but we know so much more about how the brain works than we did before. Now we know why this behavior change, thought change, pattern change stuff works. And we can pinpoint it to fine tune it, to use our brain to help us versus like my one of my least favorite things is willpower. Our willpower sucks. As a
Yep.
species, we have awful willpower. If we rely on our willpower, we're not getting anything done. But if
Yeah.
we set things up, knowing we don't have willpower, but set things up so it's easier for our brain to make that decision, then we're going to create the new habits. We're going to do the stuff that's important for us to do. So I just love knowing how the brain works because one, it gives me self compassion. Oh, like we were talking earlier about how we think we're the center of everyone's story. There's a theory that the default mode network, now hear the name, default mode network. It's like, you're right, how we usually are, unless we're in flow state, present moment, total engagement. The default mode network is running the show. There is thought that that's where our ego is based. Its thing is to say, how does that relate to me? What does that mean about me? What's that mean for my safety? Like it's all about us, where our brain is wired to go, what's that mean for me? So it takes work to go, that may not mean anything for me. How do I want to respond to it without making the meaning of it? So it's just more
Mm.
consciousness, just more consciousness about what we're doing versus the default.
Yeah, I love that. And really focusing, because words carry so much meaning. We, the words we choose to use absolutely program our brain, right? And
Mhm.
so just saying default, that just means, okay, This is the way it's always been. This is the way it's going to be. And so I'm just going to accept it. This is how I'll show up.
Right.
Instead
And
of
given that,
saying,
what do I do? Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to have sovereignty over the default versus this is how I want to show up, or
Yes.
sovereignty over what does this mean for me? Oh, this doesn't mean anything for me. And
Right?
leaning into that. I mean, that's enormous.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. When we stop searching outside for our value and our meaning, we are so much calmer and we've got so much energy.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
energy. Yeah.
And I have found, and you can tell me if you again found something different or if you're like, yep, every client, is that when we lean more into what does this mean for me or what doesn't this mean for me? What do I want in this moment? How do I want to show up? We're all around happier and more successful in our lives because we feel complete or more complete.
Yeah.
We feel more fulfilled. And so, like you were saying with your Alzheimer's caregivers, we're able to give more fully and show up more fully
Yeah.
because we focused on ourselves first.
Yes. One of the images I really like is the one of a teeter totter because I am a recovering perfectionist. So I always think I will eventually be enlightened. And that's what I should be, enlightened and centered and happy all the time. Right.
All the time. Yes.
All the time. So the image of the teeter totter I love because when we're centered, when every kid has been on a teeter totter.
Yeah.
And when you're on the edge, you go really bumpy, right? And get cherry bumped and fly off and hit down. And it's really kind of a rocky road. When you're in the center of a teeter totter, it can be going all the way and you're just kind of going ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
And life is like seeing where we are on the teeter totter and coming back to the center, right? That meaning is, what's that mean about me? We're going off to the edge of the teeter totter. It's super bumpy. We can fly off, or we can come back to the center and go, how do I want to respond to this without the meaning making? Just how do I want to respond? So that to me is life. It's not being in the center, because even in the center, you're still going ding, 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 those little up and downs.
Yeah.
But you're just going along in the teeter totter and go, oh, look, I'm way out at the edge. Oh, compassion, honey. Let's come more towards the center.
Yeah.
Love that image for
I do too, because as you were speaking it, I was picturing the teeter totter going through your two circles,
oh,
right? St-
right.
Stay with
Yes.
me here for just a minute, Dr. Jane. Because when you are more intrinsically focused and you are still having the ups and downs of life,
Mhm.
but you're not out in the edges and you're not reactive
Yes.
versus responsive. In
Yes.
that inner circle, you can be responsive, and
Yes.
out on the edges, you're reactive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I never put those two together. That is brilliant. Absolutely. Worked perfectly. Thank you.
This is why I strongly lean towards collaboration and cooperation
Yeah.
because it's like hive mind. When we come together with other women, we
Yeah.
can go so much further.
Yeah. We really can.
And it's that one little shift, right? Like you introduce this beautiful idea and then you tell this story, and then someone else comes in and says, oh, let's put those on top of each other and see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. This is why I love the podcast. This is why I love having amazing guests come on because, it's just that 1 degree shift that can change everything.
Yeah. Really can.
Mm, amazing. So
Yay.
let's go into, you said it yourself when you're on the edge of the teeter totter, when you're in that outside circle and you're being reactive, honey, you're not showing self compassion.
no.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What is self compassion for you if it's more than what we've already discussed about the intrinsic going intrinsically? What do I need? What do I want? And how does self compassion make you go further, make you more successful?
Okay. So for me, self compassion is shorthand for, oh, honey, I'm human. I forgive myself for being human. That to me is really, we're human. We make mistakes all the time. To have like, oh, I'm being human again. I mean, that just, it's so funny. When we say what is happening, even it's like, oh, I'm judging myself again. I think I should be perfect. When I say, you said that, talked about the power of words. When I say what is true in the moment, even if it's a in like not good truth, like I'm really beating myself up right now.
Yeah.
Our body settles down when we say what is true. When we're not false, like, no, I'm fine, right? Then our tension raises because we're lying to ourselves. But when we say what is true, I'm really hating that person right now. I am. And oddly, when we say what is true, we're less likely to react. We're less likely to act on it because we settle down instead of tensing up. It doesn't come out sideways. It's like, oh, I am. What do I need? Because I clearly need something right now if I'm hating, right? Or any version of not my best self.
Yeah.
So one of the things, oh. So brain geek wise, we all know there's things we should be. Like I should always be loving. I should always be generous. I should
I
always
should.
be. You're
Ugh.
like, okay, yeah. So, or when somebody says, you should do the, we go, I know. Those, I know
Mhm.
that I know is the left side of our brain. And what's fascinating is that left knowing has no neural connections to the amygdala, the fight or flight. When we're in that stress place, our amygdala is running the show. The I know, no connection. Like you can know all day long, it will not soothe your amygdala. However, if you have this awareness, it activates the medial frontal cortex right in the middle of your forehead. And you say, wow, I'm being really hard on myself right now. Wow, I'm not being who I want to be right now. Wow, I'm clearly over my edge, right? That medial frontal cortex does have neural pathway connections to the amygdala. So that awareness and the observation soothes, calms down the amygdala, and brings another part of our brain on board so that there's more than just the amygdala running the show. So self compassion is super awesome, but it also helps our brain get on board so we can cope better.
Mm, so good. And now
I know.
you've got heart brain coherence
Yes.
happening. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. I could geek out on this all day.
I know. Isn't this
And
fun?
I love that because as you were talking about it, you put your hand up on your forehead because you're talking about that front part of your brain. And for
Yes.
me, as an energy worker, that's your third eye chakra, which is your clear seeing.
Oh,
So when
oh,
you're
that's so important.
using that front brain, that
Yes.
pineal gland part of your brain, that's your clear seeing. Yeah, that makes so much sense when you put it that way.
And isn't it fascinating that the clear seeing is connected to the amygdala,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's amazing.
Because the amygdala, there's no clear seeing, there's only reaction when we're in fight, flight, or freeze.
Mhm.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and what you were saying about, the shoulds, that
Mhm.
side of the brain not being connected. I mean, I have a friend who says, "Don't should all over yourself," and
Mhm.
she'll say, "Ew, that don't do that. That's gross."
I know.
I love it, but it's just such a funny yet so clear example of why you shouldn't use the word should because
Yeah.
it's gross,
Yes.
right?
So, can I offer one of my favorite tools that if I would have a grave headstone, it would be on this? If I were queen of the world, I would ban should, must, have to, need, and gotta for Midwesterners. And
I
apparently,
vote for you. I
right?
vote for
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Vote queen of
Jane
the world,
for queen of the world.
right? But
Yeah.
here's the thing I was talking to a friend about when I first came up with this whole thing. She's like, no, that's what motivates me. I should say should. And I'm like, really? And so so she challenged me. So one of the things I came to is we do not believe, like we can know it, but we're not going to inhabit it unless we experience it. So when I give this to people, I'm like, I don't know, I should, but I should be a better person. I should pay my bills. I should go to work. I'm like, okay, great. So, so I was thinking about how to make this model like more experientially known versus just a, I know. So I have people say, okay, like, are you willing to experiment with me now?
Absolutely. This is the good stuff.
Okay. So what's something you should do, you need to do?
I should go to the gym.
Great. Okay. So say I should go to the gym and close your eyes.
I should go to the gym.
What's your body feel?
The
Right? Okay,
Yeah,
great. Now say either it'd be helpful or it's a good idea for me to go to the gym.
it would be helpful if I went to the gym. It's a good idea for me to go to the gym.
What do you feel in your body?
Calm. Like it's
Right?
this immediate feeling of just relaxation,
Yes.
ease.
Yes. Because when we say should, must, have to, need, we're already failing. Because if we should or we have to, we should have already done it. And the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about should is there's no winning. Because when you finally do it, you're like, well, I should have done it a long time ago.
Right.
So there's
And you're
no
still self
winning.
judging.
Yes. But with
Hmm.
it's a good idea, then brain geek wise, you also set your uh, reticular activating system on board, right? It's like,
Yep.
if it's a good idea, then when would be a good time? So your brain starts searching for when it would be helpful to go. When it so it searches for solutions versus yeah, and you suck because you don't.
Yeah.
So
And
just a
I
simple
love how you brought that piece in of even after you do it,
yes,
I should have done it sooner
yeah,
because
yeah.
all should, have to, gotta, all of that is self judgment.
All self judgment, and I'm failing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All I'm failing. And who wants to do something when it is associated with failure? Like the brain is literally going to go, oh my God, if I do that, it feels awful. So I don't have the energy for that. So let's do something else. So the brain, you're literally gearing your brain to go away from the very thing you're trying to motivate yourself to do.
Yeah. So you're
Simple.
literally hacking the brain
Yes.
by
Yes.
changing the words.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. So you get the unconscious working for you instead of against you.
I love it.
Yeah. I
And
love that one too.
any of these little tips and tricks that we can pick up along the way to hack the brain are
Mhm.
going to make us more successful. And, I have ADHD as well, and I wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult. And my doctor now thinks I might have been misdiagnosed with postpartum depression when in fact
You're so
it
wrong.
was the ADHD because I had two babies in 13 months. And so, whereas she said, were you successful in school? And I said, oh, yeah, I mostly got good grades when I wanted to, or, when I applied myself. And she said, right, you were successful then because everything was organized for you. But when life became overwhelming, because now you have two babies in 13 months, all of a sudden, those organizational systems aren't there anymore. And
I
you have to try to do it yourself and figure it
yeah.
out for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Genius.
Yes. And that's the thing about brain hacks is with if you're successful at coping with ADHD, it is because you figure out how to structure so your brain can say, yeah, I can do that versus I don't think I can do that. So much I can't do it. It's just structuring your life, your little things. Like I always put my keys in the same place.
Yep.
I always, 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 because otherwise, who knows where my keys will be?
Same, same.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
it's really
true.
about
And
structure.
whether it be a positive, helpful habit or a negative, unhelpful habit, we're habitual beings. And so our brains are going to continue on that path. And, I don't believe that willpower is necessarily a thing or helpful. I think it's more that we learn systems that make us successful.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah. Because if we're talking willpower, I have none.
I know, I don't either.
And why do I even want to acknowledge willpower if it already makes me a failure before I even start?
Yeah, because willpower is associated with moral strength.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're ever really using willpower because our willpower just sucks. We have
Yeah.
very little and it sucks so much energy from our brain. It's figuring out how our brain, I think it's that those hacks that we may or may not be conscious of doing, right? Either positive or negatively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Jane. I knew it. I knew you were going to be such an amazing person to chat with.
Yay! Super fun. It's super fun.
So
I love talking.
let's talk a little bit more. And I know we're coming towards the end, but let's talk about your coaching. So you do what you call head to heart coaching.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I just sent out an email blast just a couple weeks ago. I recently came across a shift because I've really been focusing on what's important. You know how when people say to you, what would you do all day long for free, even if you didn't get paid?
Yep.
And I've always thought that. And I'm like, well, I can't get paid for it. But then recently, because I'd be like swimming and dancing all day long. That's right.
There you go.
Recently, like in the past couple of months, I had this revelation. I love talking about sex and sexuality and being in our bodies and our intuition and our inner knowing, like connecting to ourselves. Like the other day, not the other day, a few months ago, I was on a plane and this woman next to me, total stranger, we were talking about sex the entire time. I'm like, this is so fun and how we
Yes.
connect. And as women, especially like I'm 61, but as we get older, there's a societal message that, well, we're just dried up. You're not desirable.
Yep.
It really isn't about sexuality at all. Just, do this other stuff. And because I like to do things differently, I came more into my sexuality post 40 and 50 than I was the entire rest of my life. So I'm
So
like,
interesting.
talk about your path. So I'm like, I want to help other women come into their own aliveness and their own juiciness and their own knowing. So that's really where I'm like, well, that sounds fun. And I would do that all free for
Yeah.
all day long. And I would also like to, be employed and, make money too. So
So I can completely see this for you. And this is your life's PhD coming back into play,
yes,
right? Because
yes,
you're bringing in now this new chapter of yourself
yeah,
into your business.
yeah.
And so that's the evolution of your life's PhD. And that's beautiful.
Yeah. And what I love about your concept of life's PhD is that, have you heard of the concept wounded healer?
Yes.
Right? Our own trauma become our gifts
Yes.
because we learned how to be how we want to be from past hurts, right? So I didn't learn how to be healthy, sexually connected to myself. Like I didn't learn that. So I learned it. And so now I've got tools to offer instead of love yourself. See yourself as sexy. Just do that,
Great.
right? That works never, right? But we've got these tools that we actually had to seek out or create and learn and fine tune and hone and practice, 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 and then go, oh my goodness, they work. Here, they can work for you too. Try it. Yeah.
So I have an amazing connection for you. She is a friend of mine who has also been on the podcast previously, and her name is Aubrey Moore. And I will connect the two of you on email, but she's a sex and intimacy coach.
Awesome.
And she's all about, she actually is just publishing her first book. So it's ready to, we're just waiting to hear the date as to when
Awesome.
it's actually going to be available. But she's all about the divine feminine and going within and honoring your femininity and your sexuality and
Oh,
all of it. Like the two of you, I absolutely am going to connect.
yay.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
give you one of my favorite breathwork exercises?
Yes, please.
You love the fast feminine masculine dichotomy, so I love this exercise. So when I wanted to kind of juice myself up and feel more alive, I breathe in through my, name it, yoni, vagina, whatever you want to use, um, through my, I like the word pussy, breathe in, and then let the breath fill my entire body. And then when I breathe out through my breasts. So I breathe in the masculine through my root chakra and then fill my body up and I breathe out through my breasts. It's amazing how that makes me more alive. And is it okay if I talk about masturbation?
Yep. Aubrey's already
Okay.
talked about it. So here we go.
Right. So I find if I'm masturbating and I'm having a hard time orgasming, I start that breath. It's like I'm on. And it's breath. It's my imagined breath. But this,
Yeah.
as you know, this stuff has power.
Yeah.
So embracing both our masculinity and our femininity. I
I
love that breath.
love that. I love that. And I can feel, thinking about even your chakras,
Yeah.
right? So that breath in would be your root chakra
Yes.
coming up, and your root chakra is your um, safety, your security, your stability. And
Oh,
then that place of your breast is your heart center. And
yeah.
that's your love, your compassion, your empathy, all of that. And
Yeah.
so I can feel energetically how that could be so powerful.
Yes. And so I love that you just said that because so many of us learned that our body was shameful and our sexuality was shameful.
Yeah.
And just the way you said that, it is literally, you basically showed me that connecting with our body connects us with our safety and our heart. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't separate, it connects us more with what we want in our life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's that integration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, instead of separation. And that's the head and heart part. Like integration is I hope where we're all heading.
Absolutely. I do think that. I do think that. I think that, with the rise of femininity and feminine energy and feminine power, I think there's going to be more. It feels to me
Mhm.
like there is more of that integration that's starting to happen. And, it's like it's a living organism, that integration, it's like it's breathing. It
Yeah.
gets a little closer and then it expands a little bit, and then it gets a little closer and then it expands, but eventually it's just going to be that complete integration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yay.
So as we're closing up here today, Dr. Jane, is there anything you'd like to offer listeners?
Yeah, I have. If you go to everydaylove.me under free course, I've got a free, like, little mini course on how to connect to your own intuition using your body. And I don't know about you, but pendulums, they never worked for me. It would always be like jerking all, like I could not get a pendulum. It was not my tool. So I wanted to figure something else out to connect to my intuition. And so I came up with a body, what I call the body test method. And it's been for 20 years, I've been practicing it and honing it, and not really honing it, but just learning to trust it. Because I've never, ever regretted when I made a decision based on my intuition.
That's
Sometimes
it.
I've regretted it when I haven't made it on intuition or against intuition, but I've never regretted making a decision with my
I
intuition.
love it. I mean, that's what I say. How does it feel in your body?
Yes.
Because your body's not going to steer you wrong.
No.
Beautiful. Thank you for offering that to listeners. That's amazing. I'm going to put the link to your website in show notes, so it'll just be
Awesome.
an easy click and go.
Thank you.
Um, thank you so much for being here. This was an amazing conversation. I'm going to connect you with Aubrey. And like I said, my friend Jamie Chapman, who also considers herself a brain geek, who
Awesome.
also has been on the show. So, you might want to check out their episodes
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think
I
you'd
will.
really connect with them. But
Absolutely.
thank you for being here. I look forward to your book coming out when it does, and I can't wait to stay connected to you further.
Thank you so much, Pascal. This was delightful. And thank you for helping me introduce my more um, sexual and sensual aspect of my work. The first
Absolutely.
time in public.
Thank you, Jane.